A massive invasion of France by Allied forces changed the tide of the European conflict. D-Day and the invasion of Normandy. By 1944, things in Germany are taking a turn for the worse. Allied planes are dropping tons of bombs on their cities, crippling industry and demoralizing the German people. The winter has hurt them badly on the Russian front, and with the spring thaw, the Red Army is fighting back with a vengeance. Safely guarded by two oceans, America is an untouchable production ground. A workforce composed mostly of women is supplying the Allies with endless quantities of ships, planes, guns, vehicles, even boots, anything the Allies need to keep fighting. Italy is the first Axis power to fall in 1944. But the real battle is still to come. Operation Overlord is in the planning stages. Like an epic reversal of the disastrous retreat at Dunkirk, its aim is to transport an army of 154,000 men from 12 Allied nations across the English Channel on 6,500 ships, all in a single day. They'll land on the beaches at Normandy, overwhelming the German defenses with surprise and sheer numbers. The night before the invasion, Churchill gravely muses that when he wakes in the morning, 20,000 men may be dead. Others estimate losses as high as 75,000. On the steely gray morning of June 6th, D-Day, Dwight Eisenhower, the supreme commander of the Allied forces, meets with the men of the 101st Airborne, scheduled to drop behind enemy lines. He tells the men, "I've done all I can." And one soldier replies, "Now quit worrying, General. We'll take care of this thing for you." As the airplanes take off towards France, the stoic general can't fight back his tears. Eisenhower scribbles a note that he keeps in his wallet in case of a disaster. "If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone." The Allied convoy assembles at sea, and the secret invasion begins. A massive campaign of deception is also underway. Flights of aircraft drop strips of metal to convince German radar that a massive air invasion is underway at Pas-de-Calais to the north. British, Polish, and Canadian troops take their beaches with limited resistance, but the American Ranger units encounter brutal action on Omaha Beach. There are twice the number of German units predicted, laying down heavy fire. The landing craft are putting troops ashore wherever they can. Disoriented and heavily loaded, men either manage to scramble up the beach or drown in the surf. A tattered group makes it from the murderous fire on the beach to a seawall just inches tall in some places. Inspired by small acts of bravery from impromptu leaders, the Rangers pour over the seawall and advance to take out the guns on the cliffs above. The beach is secure before nightfall. And with the precious Allied foothold established at Normandy, thousands of fresh soldiers and tons of equipment pour in. The Allies gear up to take back France. The Allied army pushes through France and turns toward Berlin. With the Allies at their doorstep, the Germans mass for one last great offensive. Surging forward from their positions in Belgium, the Germans push 40 miles back into the Allied lines. Eisenhower's troops put them down in what is remembered as the Battle of the Bulge. The German army is crushed. And there is little resistance as the Allies march onto Berlin. With his dreams of a 1,000-year Reich crumbling around him, Hitler retreats to his bunker. On April 30th, he learns that the Americans have entered Munich and the Russians are pushing towards Berlin from the east, tearing Germany in two. For the architects of the Nazi regime, it's a dark hour of atonement. The Fuhrer decides to avoid capture the only way he can. Hitler and his bride, Eva Braun, swallow poison, and according to his wishes, Hitler is shot in the head. Goebbels arranges for the lethal injections of his children and has himself and his wife shot. On April 12th, just 18 days before the death of Adolf Hitler, Franklin Delano Roosevelt passes away in Warm Springs, Georgia. His leadership over the troops and reassurance over the American public is sorely missed. Many of the young GIs can't remember any other president before him. Just 3 hours after Roosevelt's death, Vice President Harry Truman is sworn into office and the war continues on. With Germany subdued, the Allies' attention turns to the events unfolding in the Pacific. The Marines are fighting terrible battles for the island's stepping stones that will get them within striking distance of Japan. The Japanese are outgunned and outnumbered, but they have enormous reserves of courage and determination to guard their homeland. Under Admiral Chester Nimitz and General Douglas MacArthur, the man who swore he would return, Allied troops begin to recapture lost territory, including the Philippines. On the main island of Japan, every soldier and civilian available is preparing to fend off an imminent invasion. Some civilians with farm tools and bamboo spears. The Americans have already witnessed the deadly flights of the kamikaze pilots and the suicidal waves of civilians and soldiers charging their guns. It's the same indomitable spirit that will keep isolated Japanese soldiers fighting in the jungles of the Pacific for decades after the war is over.